Hi everybody, welcome to a special video. Today we are going to be doing some building. We're going to build a grind box. I've wanted one of these for a long time, and I wanted one that I can use in my garage because when it comes to winter and there's snow all over the place, I can't do grinds anymore. I don't get to practice them because I don't have anything indoors that I can do on a regular basis. And so I wanted one of my very own. So I'm going to show you the build and put it all in fast forward because it would take way too long to actually have it in real time. But I'm basically going to just frame out a box that fits the length of the piece of angle iron I got. And so it's a little bit shorter than 6 foot, just like by a hair in length. And I made it 2 feet wide just to give it enough width that I can try other grinds and things. Like someday I hope I can put some feebles on this. I also thought that I might use it as a mani pad, but you'll see how that goes once the box is complete. And so if you're interested in some of the other specs, like I said, just close to 6 feet in length, about 2 feet across. And I went with 2x6s for the height because I figured by the time I put a 2x6, which you know is really 5.5 inches tall, but then I put some decking and some angle iron on top, that's going to come to about 3/4 of an inch. So we end up with a box with the height of just over 6 inches, which I think is really good because I think it resembles a proper curb really well. I think proper curbs are right around 6 inches most of the time. So here we are finally getting close to having the framing done. I wanted to space out my spans a little bit more evenly, screw those in, and then we're finally getting ready to move on to the top, the decking. And I just used some 3/4 inch by 1 foot boards for this. I didn't want to go with plywood because plywood is a lot more expensive and I have to cut it to the right size. These 2 boards seemed like the way to go for me for budget and for just fit as well. I did cut their ends just to make sure everything's the way I want it. Nice and even and everything, but I think it turned out really well. The other good thing about these boards is they are finished. They're nice and smooth. So plywood comes in a lot of different grades. Sometimes it can be really rough, and that wouldn't work very well for trying to do grinds and slides and things. And like I said, the finished plywood, the stuff that is smoothed out, is quite expensive. I didn't want to spend that much money on just a little box. Here I've got my half round file that I use on a lot of wood projects just to knock down the edges of some of the things to make sure that it's not splintery and has like sharp corners. And then the last thing I wanted to do before I do anything with angle iron was take a chunk out of the board in front, because once this is sitting on the ground, if there's no handle, how do you pick it up and move it around? So I'm actually making a handle. So I cut out a notch back there and then chiseled out the pieces, and now I'm hitting it with the file again to make sure there's no splinters and it's smooth enough, and now I can easily move it around. Now we're going to get to the angle iron. I took the angle iron piece that I got up to the shop at work that I have access to and hit it with like a wire disc kind of thing to smooth it out, because raw angle iron is pretty rough. It's kind of chunky and gritty, and it would be too grabby. So I smoothed out the surface that I was actually going to be grinding, and then drilled some holes, countersunk it, and then just drilled it right into the side of the box I had built. So here's the finished product. Like I said, about 6¼ inches high off the ground, and angle iron on one side for some grinds. So here we are going to try it out for some of the very first tries. Right there, I wanted to make sure that the angle iron would actually grind properly. I thought it would. I waxed it up and everything. And so I just did kind of a little hop on slide across to make sure it wasn't too sticky or anything. And it felt good. Then I warmed up with some manuals, of course. And then I thought the first thing I wanted to do was try to use this as a mani pad. But there is a challenge. Even though my garage is kind of long, I had problems getting the speed and the setup time to be able to hop up into a manual on this thing. So then I started trying nose manual, because I thought, well, nose manual, I can kind of just walk the board up there as I've done in the past. And it got a little bit better. I finally got some sort of ollies up there, but it was still really uncomfortable speed-wise and with the space that I have to try to do manuals up on this thing. Now, I might work on that more in the future, but for today, the first day using my box, I was kind of uncomfortable with the manuals. I decided to move on to grinds. And right there, that was my first backside 50-50. And then I kept working on 50-50s a little bit to get them a little smoother. Like I said, figuring out the speed in the garage is sometimes a little tough, but I started to clean it up. So 50-50s, and especially backside, I don't know why that's comfortable for me, but they felt pretty good. So then I've got to get a nose slide, at least a tiny one, and you all know that I'm not all that good at nose slides, but, you know, I got one. Then it was time to go on to nose grind. This is a grind I really like, and I felt like the angle iron and the contact and everything was a little bit sticky, so I went back in and waxed. I find that I have to wax this over and over again. It being new angle iron, it's like it sucks up the wax, or maybe the wax comes right off. I don't know, but I have to wax it a lot, it being so new. But I finally did end up getting a nose grind, even though it was a little chunky. Then I've been wanting to work on these. I've been wanting to get more crooked grinds because I think it is such a cool grind. And I started to lock into them a little bit better. I rode away from a couple of them, but they're not really boned up and out the way they're supposed to be. The board was kind of sideways. When I finally do lock the truck in the proper way, I have a hard time getting out of the grind because this is just a little bit higher than that mani pad I always use at my local, so it was throwing me off. But it was still really good practice. And I did manage to get a couple of crooks where I do have the 180 pivot out. And for now, I'm happy to take that because at least I'm doing a crook. Then I'm going back to 50-50 again, just another backside 50, and then I'm going to come at it from fakie, and I can't believe that was my first try right there for fakie 50-50. And it got a little bit better and a little bit better. It didn't take all that many tries to actually get one right there that wasn't too bad for a fakie 50-50. I'm kind of happy that that worked out so well. And as I wrap up my session, I decided, hey, let's try to exit the 50-50 from a couple of things that I know how to do. And here I was just kind of messing around because I ended up standing right in front of the box. And then one of my favorite things to do, backside 50-50 with a shove it out. Felt really good to get that first try. That was awesome. And then I was standing there again, decided, hey, I should do something. And got a kickflip first try. So I'm really happy. So I'm looking forward to using this more in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.